perfectly fitting to the concept of Ayurveda biology, where Ayurveda, we always say that it is working based on the holistic concepts, and biology is basically working based on the reductionist concept, where I am trying to understand the exact molecular mechanism or whatever the key players in that. So now we are taking chronobiology as an example to introduce this Ayurveda biology understanding of different concepts. So why chronobiology, and before that, what is chronobiology? Have you heard about the chronobiology? I'm sure you would have heard about chronobiology because it is important, because 2017 the Nobel Prize was for some of the discoveries on chronobiology. So what is that chronobiology? It's basically nothing but the rhythms. Okay. So this is what is the one-line explanation for chronobiology. When our body wants to run like a Swiss watch, we cannot have any kind of alterations in the body. So we all talk about homeostasis. So the homeostasis can also be explained in this chronobiological terms. That body wants some kind of rhythm. So that rhythm is so important for the complete functioning of the body. So what is this rhythm in a human body? So this is a classical explanation of a 24-hour rhythm that is happening in our body. So if you see midnight, 12 o'clock to again that midnight, that time, if you see, body has lot of changes that are happening in our body, which will actually have different biological functions at different time interval. So this is, the body is adapted to that kind of a system. Okay, so this is about a 24-hour cycle, which classically we call it as, what is it? Circadian rhythm. Okay, so there are many other rhythms in our normal environmental interaction, which includes ultradian and infradian and all those things, where some of these cycles are extending more than 24 hours, some of these cycles are less than 24 hours, like that. So now, what is the importance of these rhythms, or why these rhythms are important? This is what is the question people were asking. So initially, when they observe all these things, the history of circadian rhythm, or history of chronobiology, starts with some of the observations, like how certain plants, like mimosa, how these plants are responding to light, or how certain plants are responding to some other environmental factors. So from these observations, people have come to a conclusion that there are certain factors which will influence some of these biological activities which are happening in the system. Later they observed that even in the absence of this stimulus, or even in the absence of this cue, these things can still continue in the biological system for a certain period of time. So there is something like that kind of a memory that is getting imprinted into the biological system, and that is what is the biological clock. Okay, so the biological clock is something which is generated based on an environmental or external stimulus, which will be retained for a certain period of time, but it is again adaptable to a changing environment. Okay, so this clock is can be manipulated according to the different environmental systems. So this is what is the fundamental observation people had. But then there was a question: what makes this biological clocks, or what induces this biological clock? Yes, in a holistic way, we are seeing that there are so many external environmental factors which are influencing. But there will be always the question: what is that happening inside the body? How we are absorbing that external thing into the body? This was one question which was remaining, and people were trying to understand this using different methodologies. Okay, where people were actually going down to tissues, cells, so molecules and atoms and all those things, and finally I will come to some examples where they have identified certain things. So let me just go through these things. So chronobiology is a field of biology that examines periodic cyclic phenomena in living organisms and their adaptation to the environmental rhythms around them. It's a pretty clear, straightforward definition. So these biological rhythms allow the organisms to harmonize with the environment easily. That is what is more important. So this is an evolutionary concept basically, because every living being is evolved from whatever the pre-existing thing. So that evolution is happening when they can harmonize with the environment. And if you can, those who are doing some work on evolution and all, they can connect with the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium and all those things. So everywhere, this is what is the basic attempt a living organism is doing to harmonize with the environment. If it cannot harmonize, then there will be some kind of changes. So adaptation, origin of life, everything is more or less talking about the same thing. So then there are certain words these chronobiology people use. One is Zeitgeber. This is basically it's a German word. Is any external or environmental cue that entrains or synchronizes an organism's biological rhythm to the Earth's 24 light and dark cycle and 12-month cycle. Any idea why immediately that 24-hour light and dark cycle has come here? Because as per the definition, they are saying that any external or environmental cue that entrains, synchronizes biological rhythms to the Earth's 24 light and dark cycle. What is the importance of that light and dark cycle immediately here?
It is related to our circadian rhythm.
Not like that. Circadian rhythm is related to the light and dark cycle. Why? Because that is one of the major cue which can induce all these things. Why that is the major cue? Because that is one of the constants that you can see in the world, where always you can see a sunrise or sunset or whatever it is, okay, in whatever way it is. So there is a rotation for our Earth, and based on that rotation there will be sunrise, sunset and all those things, and there will be light and dark cycle which is more or less fixed. And that's where we are trying to bring it into circadian rhythm. And there are certain outgroups, because biology is always a science of exception, so there will be certain outgroups which will not fit into this 24-hour cycle. So, but my point here is all this, cue that need not be light alone. It can be atmospheric, drugs, temperature, social interactions, pharmacological manipulation, exercise, eating, drinking. So, any of these things can basically set a biological clock in human body, not only in human body, for that matter, in any of these living organisms. We are talking more in case of human system, because it will be easier for us to connect to the Ayurveda concept. So here the take-home message is that there can be so many such factors which can basically set a biological clock. Okay, so now so the daily life of a human being or any of this living being is basically structured by three different clocks. One is the solar clock that provides daily light and temperature changes, which is the most important one. And second one is the social clock, which is based on work or family related factors. Okay, and the internal biological clock. So basically this 1 and 2 is is ultimately resulting into the formation of the internal biological clock. So here at this stage you can see that this is a very superficial way of explaining how this biological clock is set. Okay, so I am saying that there will be a light and dark cycle, or there will be something like a social clock, which is work family related thing, or your interaction. All these things are supposed to generate some sort of biological clock in the body. But how all these things are happening, this is what is very interesting, and this is one of the important questions. And that's where this achievement, this got Nobel Prize. This is about circadian rhythm. And the circadian rhythm is any biological process that displays an endogenous entrainable oscillation of about 24 hours. Okay, so please try to understand that chronobiology or the biological rhythm is not just circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is very important because, as I told you before, the first point, light and dark cycle, that is something very constant and very prominent in the universe. So all organisms has to, get adapted to that light and dark cycle because it is something that is happening, which is beyond our no, the other whatever the routine base where we live. So that's why this circadian rhythm is so important. Where they actually this people Jeffrey C. Hall and Rosbash and Young, they have discovered the molecular mechanisms controlling the circadian rhythm. When I say these people have discovered the molecular mechanism, they have not elucidated the complete story of all these circadian rhythms or all these components which creates this biological clock. They have attempted and they have observed a lot of things. I will briefly explain that, and they have identified some of the master regulators of the circadian rhythm. Okay, and that forms the basis for so many other observations and probably discoveries, if you want, you can call it like that. And it is again an evolving field. So what was their observation? What is circadian rhythm for those who don't know? So this is the light and dark entrainment. So entrainment is nothing but the synchronization process. Okay. So when there is a light cycle and when there is a dark cycle, you will have something like this. Okay. You have some kind of a rhythm. You just imagine like that. It's just a rhythm where the biological processes are happening. Like something is going up, something is going down, just like that. Okay. We are not going into the details of all these things now. So now later, when there is something called as a free running rhythm, that is nothing but you have a constant cycle, and you are removing that cycle and you are providing the organism some kind of a constant thing like darkness or whatever it is. So in that again, you will have the same rhythm or the same cycle continuing in that free running time also. Okay, and later so this is kind of a memory. Later this can slowly get adapted to the new cycle if you are providing. Otherwise it will continue with the existing cycle. So there will be some sort of memory which is being taken into the genes, where it can withstand some of these minor changes. However, when it is a major change or the disturbance, when it is more, there will be a lot of other confusions. I'll come to that. So basically, I am not going to the details of this mechanism here. What these people did for their Nobel Prize winning work, they were studying, I think many of you must be knowing that story, would have read that. They were working on Drosophila. Okay, and they have observed that this Drosophila can have some behavioral changes when it is exposed to light and dark cycle, and when you remove that light cycle from their routine light and dark cycle exposure. So some of these behavioral changes has been again continued during the free run time also. So they were even previously also people have identified certain genes called as periodine and all. I mean, not only this Nobel winning group, some other groups also have identified, and they were studying on these genes. And interestingly, they observed something called as a feedback mechanism, feedback loop, where see, this is the master regulator of the circadian rhythm, that is suprachiasmatic nucleus, which actually can receive lights. It's a light receiving area, not exactly the light receiving the area of other actions. This is particularly related to the circadian rhythm. So there are two transcription activators like clock and BMA-L1. This transcription activator, so what is happening when there is a particular cycle of light or dark, this transcription activators will go and bind to the DNA, and it will activate the production of two genes called as period gene and cry gene. Okay, so cry gene is basically a human homologue of another gene called as TIM gene, which is basically they have isolated from Drosophila. Okay, that is known as timeless. That is the name for TIM gene. So they have given the names as period and time, etc., because of its fundamental role in regulating this cycles and regulating the circadian rhythm. So this inducer or this cue can activate the transcription of this period and cry gene. Once these are activated, once these are transcribed, these proteins will be produced in the cytoplasm, and when the proteins are produced, they again form a dimer and it will come back to the nucleus and they will block the expression of or block the action of this clock and BMA-L1 transcription factor. So this is basically a feedback mechanism. Okay, is it clear like how it is happening? There is a transcription factor called as clock and BMA-L1 which will produce two proteins through period and cry gene, and they will get transcribed and they will form the protein, and this protein will form a dimer and will come back to the nucleus and will block the action of clock and BMA-L1. Now, how this is connected to the light cycle? So initially they have observed in Drosophila that this component, homologous component of cry, that is TIM, timeless, this is a light sensitive one. When there is light, its production will increase. When there is no light, that production will decrease. Same case is happening in the cry gene also. So there comes the connection of light and dark cycle. So when you don't have this protein, then that dimerization will not happen. When that dimerization is not happening, it will not come back to the nucleus and it cannot block the transcription of clock and BMA. So basically this PR protein and cry protein slowly accumulate and dimerize and feedback to inhibit clock BMA with dependent transcription. So this is how that loop is happening. So when there is a light and when there is a dark, this expression of some of these proteins will change, and because of that change in expression they will form a feedback inhibition loop. Okay, so this was the observation or this was the study these people have done using their Drosophila model, and then later they could connect that to the mammalian system. So this actually defines what is the molecular mechanism of circadian rhythm. So now, why this is important? Because see, this is just about one cell where you have a light and dark cycle, and there will be some protein expression and all those things. So how this circadian rhythm or how this process is important in understanding the other process. Here the point is that the entire, see, we need to understand that though they have explained all these things, basically talking about the master regulator, that is this superchiasmatic nucleus, these proteins are expressed in all over the body, almost all the peripheral tissues. You can see the expression of these proteins. So the regulation of or the understanding of light cycle and dark cycle is the master regulator. Accordingly, the body or the brain will send the signal to all the other systems to function in appropriate way. For example, if a person is understanding that 6 o'clock morning as the sunrise time, then slowly the body will adapt to a particular cycle where probably at 7:30 you will have a breakfast, or you will have lunch at 1 o'clock or whatever it is. So that is a cycle. That is what is the adaptation that the body is getting. So yeah.
I just want to understand, when you said that it creates a loop, then what happens in case of people who have insomnia? And why this is not happening?
Yeah, I am not going to that detail because that is the disruption. Insomnia is the disruption of biological rhythm. In one way, we can explain that. So that's what I am trying to say, that molecular mechanism. So they have explained one of the important molecular mechanisms, but there are so many other things to be explained. So, for example, insomnia. You can have insomnia because of so many things. It can be sometimes stress, it can be sometimes some drug addiction, it can be sometimes some other action. So, it's not, that's what I'm trying to say. The light and dark cycle is one thing which is a constant phenomena happening in the environment, and the concept of circadian rhythm is evolved based on that. And because of that light and dark cycle, body is adapting to all other biological mechanisms which
So
include.
how many days does it take for a person to reset the biological clock?
We cannot say like that, because jet lag is the classical example of disruption of biological clock. So how many days it will take is depending on the person. So probably Vishnu sir, when he described the Ayurvedic concepts, I hope you will have a little more insight into it. It's a highly personalized thing, I would say. So jet lag is one thing. Your what is that called? Work shift, or there is another concept in Western countries. It is not that time adjustment. All those things can affect. So you cannot say how many day or how long it will take, and even very small things like sort of psychological stress and all can also affect this biological rhythm. But certain things will be easily repaired, and some other things may not repair. And how the disturbance continues. So that's what I'm saying. The rhythm is so important. Not only for human life, for everywhere, the rhythm is important. Whether it is a physical activity or a biological activity, if that disturbs, there will be problem. So, yeah. So just to broad way the circadian rhythm disruption. One can be a genetic level disturbances, and the other one can be environmental. But all these things can lead to different diseases. They have shown as cancer, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease as some of the examples, but it will not stop there. It can be any other diseases. So now, so what is the dimensions of chronobiology? So this chronobiology talks about all these rhythms, and chronobiology can be used in understanding the pharmacology. We can say that chronopharmacology, chronopharmacodynamics, chronopharmacokinetics, chronometabolism, whatever it is, because this can be connected to all this kind of biological process. And you can tap this rhythm concept for probably designing drug, or not drug exactly, because drug is a different concept. Maybe for finding out the best time for giving the drug and things like that. So the fundamental thing here is, as long as our internal clocks are working properly and are in synchronization with our lifestyle, we can function normally. Placing the chronotype night owl in an environment typical for the chronotype of early birds can have a profound negative effect on the emotional, physical and psychological health of the individual. So this is the fundamental concept of chronobiology. So when it comes to the Ayurvedic interpretations of chronobiology or Ayurvedic aspects, you can see Dinacharya, Ritujacharya and all those things, which our Vishnu sir will describe in detail, and how you can think how you can connect that into making a better understanding of the concepts of chronobiology using synthesis of the Ayurvedic concepts and the modern biology concept. Okay.